Hello everyone, this is Madhuri, working as Assistant Professor in the Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering at MLR Institute of Technology, Hyderabad. So today we are going to discuss about testing of DC motors topic as part of our DC machines course. So basically what is a testing? So testing is a process under which the electrical equipment undergoes various tests or the evaluation of the performance characteristics of electrical equipment like machines. Now we are studying about DC machines. So particularly we are studying about DC motors. We are going to conduct the test on DC motors, various types of tests like loading the test, not loading the test, no load test, brake test, heat test, and back-to-back test like coupling the motor and generator, and we are going to conduct a test. So in all these kinds of tests, how the motor behaves and what are the performance characteristics of the motors will be studied for each particular type of test under this testing of DC motors topic. So basically, DC machines testing involves a review of machine's performance and attributes in varied operating situations. So we take different operating conditions and we evaluate the performance of the machine under different operating conditions, and thus we calculate the efficiency of the machine, how efficient the machine is running under different operating conditions or different situations given to the motor. So it is aimed at evaluating the characteristics of the machine's performance, such as voltage regulation, that is how this voltage is being changed from no load condition to full load condition, and the speed control, as well as other main parameters. Like the other main parameters may involve the characteristics which we have seen the other day, the torque and armature current, torque and speed characteristics, and armature current and speed characteristics. So all these performance characteristics will be studied, evaluated during the testing of DC motors for different kinds of tests. So these tests again facilitate the machine to run reliably and efficiently. So which increases the span of the machine. So it is nothing but maintenance of your particular DC machines. So particularly we are studying about DC motors. So this testing is nothing but to make your motor run efficiently for a good amount of lifespan. It is called as testing. So we need testing for this DC motors. So in order to meet the specifications and governing requirements of different kinds of loads, we also conduct these testing on DC motors. So the implications which we draw from all these tests, which we study further in our next classes, will be used to decide the further actions like in operations, in maintenance, and in troubleshooting our equipment. So while operating with during the operations, these implications which we draw from the various tests can be used, and during the maintenance process also we can use these implications which we draw from various kinds of tests. Troubleshooting is nothing but if any problem occurs in the equipment like DC motors or DC generators. So these implications which we draw from this kind of all the direct and indirect test methods on the DC machines will be used how to troubleshoot that particular situation and how to make the motor or generator run properly under that abnormal condition. Then we can also find out the efficiency. So efficiency, we know that it is nothing but the output power divided by the input power, or ratio of output power to input power multiplied by losses. So here either output power or input power can be written in terms of losses. So for now I am writing the output power in terms of losses. It will be nothing but the power input subtracted by the losses which occur in the motor divided by the power input. Then we can get the efficiency of the DC motor. So various losses taking place in DC motor and efficiency can be calculated by carrying all these kind of tests. So basically we have two kinds of tests broadly classified. The testing methods are broadly classified into two types. So the first method of testing is direct method of testing, and the second method of testing is indirect method of testing. So what is direct method of testing and what is indirect method of testing will be seen in the next slide. So direct method of testing, it is a process of testing in which we actually load the motor directly. So in this method, the motor which is to be tested is actually loaded and the input and the output powers are measured. So we directly load the motor And how we are going to load the motor will be seen in the different kinds of tests. So we will be directly loading the motor and we'll be calculating the efficiency by noting down the input power and the output power. So we know that efficiency is again the ratio of output power to input power, from which we can calculate the efficiency of that particular machine under that particular direct test. Generally, this method is employed for small motors, as a motor is loaded by means of a brake applied to the water cooled pulleys. So we take a drum which is given. So this drum will have a provision for pouring down the water into it, so that this is nothing but the pulley arrangement to add the loads on the motor drum. So we have scales here on this pulley arrangement to note down how much load is being applied on the motor actually, and we have a provision for water cooling method also here. So after loading the motor to its rated conditions, we have to cool down the motor such that it is operated for the further applications or the further increase in load operation. So the main drawback for this particular type of test is accuracy. Accuracy in determining the mechanical output which is actually being available at the shaft of the motor. So it is also limited, and alternately it is difficult to provide full load for the large capacity motor. For small motors, we can load the motor and we have this cooling arrangement to cool down the motor, and which further runs the motor properly. But when we take the large capacity motors, so there should be a large cooling provision method, so which will be quite difficult compared to the small motors. So that is why this is the main drawback for this direct method of testing, and efficiency is also little low for large capacity motors. And the next method is nothing but indirect method of testing. So in this indirect, motor is actually not loaded directly, but the losses and the efficiency can be predetermined or estimated by not loading the motor, or by taking the values of the motor under no load conditions, which can be also called as a no load condition. Direct method is generally loaded condition. Indirect method is nothing but we conduct this particular types of test under no load condition. So motor is not directly loaded, but we can predetermine the losses and the efficiency at different kinds of loads without actually loading the motor. Out of the different methods available for testing of the DC motors, we mostly use two kinds of test. One is Swinburne's test and the Hopkinson's test. These are most commonly used and are in practice for shunt kind of motors. In series motors, we know that series motors cannot be started without load. So the no load test or the Swinburne's test or the Hopkinson's test cannot be conducted on series motors. We should always start a series motor by loading it. So that's why this kind of indirect method of testing cannot be performed on DC series motors. So it can only be performed on the shunt machines or the shunt motors. So first we are going to discuss about the first test, that is nothing but Swinburne test. So the key learnings of the Swinburne test is nothing but we know that it is an indirect method of testing. So Swinburne's test is indirect method of testing. So indirect method of testing means we are not going to load the motor, but we are going to calculate the efficiency of the motor under no load conditions. So this Swinburne test is basically applied for shunt and compound wound DC machines. So Swinburne test finds its application for shunt and compound wound DC machines by measuring the no load losses. So we get here, by using Swinburne test, we are going to calculate the no load losses or the constant losses. This test runs the machine as motor or generator. So we can use this test for running the DC machine either as motor or generator to measure its no load losses and calculate the efficiency. So efficiency calculation, we know that how to calculate the output power and how to calculate the input power, which we have already seen in our previous lectures. The output power can be given as input minus losses, and input can be given as output plus losses. So by using the ratio of output to input, we can calculate our efficiency. So thus we calculate the efficiency of the motor for this particular test when the machine is acting as motor as well as when the machine is acting as a generator. So advantages of this particular types of test is, so the power required for testing this kind of machine, whether the machine is large or small, the power required is small because we are going to only calculate the no load losses. Hence, the input power which is required for conducting this kind of test is very small. So even we test the large machines or small machines, the power required for conducting the Swinburne's test is small. So therefore, it is economical and convenient method of testing due to its cost-effective nature. As a constant losses, now we are aware of the constant losses or the no load losses. So under no load conditions, we are always going to record the constant losses, which we are already aware of it. So efficiency at different loads can be predetermined by using this constant losses. So disadvantages, coming to the disadvantages of this test. So change in iron losses is not considered from no load to full load. So when we load the motor fully, armature reaction comes into the picture. We know that under the armature reaction, the main flux is distorted, which increases the iron losses. So the iron losses are also again the constant losses. So under full load condition, since the Swinburne test is performed on no load, so this test cannot determine or indicate, or it cannot give the implications on full load condition satisfactorily. So that's why whether the temperature rise is within the specified limits under full load condition due to while calculating the iron losses cannot be predetermined by this particular test. So that's why this will be the drawback for Swinburne's test or the disadvantages of the Swinburne test. So this is the arrangement for Swinburne test. We can see that the motor, shunt motor, armature winding, your armature and the field winding of your motor. This is nothing but the 3-point starter. And this is our DC supply or supply lines. We connect a voltmeter across it to record the value of the supply voltage which we are applying to the motor. And ammeter is to record the line current or the no load current, I0. And 3-point starter is used to run the machine initially. We know that the field terminal of 3-point starter is attached to a regulator or a rheostat. So this rheostat is used to bring the rotating part, that is nothing but the armature, to the rated speed condition. We are also attaching a ammeter here connected in series with the field winding such that it records the field current. And the ammeter which is connected in series with the armature records the armature current. So we have 3 currents here: line current, armature current and field current. So initially by using the 3-point starter, as soon as we give the supply 220 volts to our motor, that is a shunt motor, we are going to start the motor by using 3-point starter, and by using this rheostat we are going to bring the motor to the rated speed condition. Suppose the rated speed of the motor is 1500 rpm. So we are now going to bring the motor to the rated speed condition, and then we are going to note down the no load current, armature current and field current values, and we are also going to note down the supply voltage values. After recording all these values, we have the formulas for input power and output power, and also we have the formulas for our constant losses, nothing but the iron losses. So all those losses are calculated by using this method. So we know that it is an indirect method of testing and it is named after the scientist Sir James Swinburne. It is a simple and common test. We usually run it for shunt and compound wound machines with constant flux. We know that shunt machine and compound wound machines are constant flux machines. So this test predetermines the machine's efficiency at any load by running either as motor or generator. So measuring the no load losses separately. We are going to measure the no load losses separately. Then let us consider V as the supply voltage. I said I as the no load line current and ISH as the field current, shunt field current. Now the no load armature current will be, if we take the shunt machine, the shunt motor, the circuit arrangement in the previous slide can be redrawn like this. So when we give supply, this is a no load current. It gets divided into armature current and the shunt field current. So we can From this we can write our armature current as the no load current coming from the supply lines and the current which is delivered to the shunt field branch. So this is nothing but I0 minus ISH. So the input power can be now the supply voltage, applied supply voltage into no load current will give the input power. This is the no load input power of the machine which is applied to the DC motor or the shunt motor to determine, or it supplies the core loss, a no load armature copper loss, friction and windage losses. So all these kind of losses are discussed detailedly in our previous lecture. So the input power which is required to supply all these losses under no load condition is supplied, that is nothing but V into I0. So at no load condition, the useful mechanical output of the machine is 0. As no load is connected to our DC motor now, the mechanical output is 0. Thus, the no load input power is only used to supply the losses in the machine. Hence, the armature copper loss at the no load condition is given as Ia naught square, which we have assumed as the armature current or the current across the armature, multiplied by the resistance of the armature conductors, where Ra is the resistance of armature winding. Therefore, the constant power losses in the machines now will be no load input power minus no load copper losses. So this will be the constant losses which are occurring when we conduct the Swinburne test on the DC shunt machine. So now, after knowing the constant losses of the machine, its efficiency at any other load can be determined. If we consider half load, quarter load, 3/4 of the load or the full load, for all these particular types of loaded conditions, as we know that constant losses are already predetermined, so we can calculate the efficiency at any particular condition of the loaded condition of this DC motor. So consider I is the current at which the efficiency of the machine is to be calculated. So now when the machine is running as motor, we have seen the armature current is nothing but the line current or the current coming from the supply lines minus the shunt field current. The input power will be V into I, line current into the applied voltage to the motor. Copper loss will be Ia square Ra. When we substitute this, we get the equation for the copper loss as I minus ISH square Ra. So total losses in the machines will be now the copper losses which are occurring in the machine plus the constant losses which are already predetermined under the no load condition using Swinburne test. So PC is the constant loss which is determined above. From this we can calculate the efficiency of the machine as input minus the losses divided by input. We determine the efficiency of the machine running as a shunt motor using the Swinburne's test in this way. So when the same machine is running as generator, we are going to determine the efficiency using the Swinburne test. So when we consider the armature, so I consider now I have a shunt generator. So shunt generator, we know that EG is generated near the armature and the current flowing in this is Ia, which is further divided into ISH and the load current. So that is why we take the load current plus the shunt field current, which will be equals to the armature current. Sum of the load current and the shunt field current will be the armature current. So now the generator output or the output power or the power delivered by the armature will be V into I. That is nothing but the terminal voltage which is appearing across the load terminals multiplied by the current which is delivered to the load from the armature of the generator. From this, the armature copper loss will be now I plus ISH square Ra. And we know that total losses in the machine will be the sum of the variable losses plus the constant losses. So constant losses are iron losses which are already predetermined under no load condition by using Swinburne test. So the variable losses are calculated here by using the armature current formula, and then we calculate the efficiency using output by output plus losses, as we have got the output power is delivered by the generator armature. So output power is Vi divided by output plus the variable losses plus the constant losses. This is how we calculate the efficiency of the machine when it is running as a generator by using Swinburne's test. This is all about Swinburne's test, and let us see the limitations of this particular test. Swinburne's test is only applicable to the DC machines with constant flux. Practically, constant flux is seen in shunt machines and compound machines. So it is not applicable to all kinds of machines. So it is not applicable to series machines because we usually apply this test under no load conditions. We know that the series motor should ever be started without load. So that's why this particular test, it cannot be considered or cannot be conducted on series machines. DC series machines cannot be tested as they cannot be run on no load and their flux and speed will vary greatly. So these are the limitations of Swinburne's test. And then moving on to the next kind of test, nothing but brake test. Brake test, we know that it is a direct method of testing. Direct method of testing means we actually load the motor. In this method, the motor is put on the direct load by means of a belt and pulley arrangement. So this is nothing but the belt and pulley arrangement. This is nothing but our motor. These are the scales to record the weights which are actually applied on the motor using this belt and pulley arrangement. So we have a provision here for cooling down the motor by pouring the water into it. So by adjusting the tension of this belt, the load is adjusted to give the various values of current. So we load the motor, we increase the loads from no load to full load condition or the rated condition of the motor. And at different loaded conditions, we are going to calculate or we are going to note down the various values of the currents by adjusting the tension of the belt, that is by adjusting the loads on the belt. The load is finally adjusted to get the full load current. So we take it to the rated value, final rated value of the motor. The power develops get wasted against the friction between the belt and the shaft. So here some amount of power is being lost in the form of friction between the belt and the shaft, which is actually there for the motor due to the braking action of the belt. That is, braking action is nothing but the loading of the motor. This test is called as brake test. It is named after the loads which are applied in the form of a brake to the motor. So for this, we are going to consider the arrangement required for the brake test. Before that, we consider the R as the radius of the pulley in meters, and N is the speed in RPM. That is nothing but N is the speed of the motor in RPM. That is nothing but rotations per minute. W1 is the spring balance for reading it on one side of the pulley, and W2 is the spring balance for reading it on the one side which is tight is called as tight side, and the other is which is little loose is called as slack side. So we are going to record W1 and W2 as the weights on tight and slack side of the pulley arrangement. So we will get the net pulley on the belt due to the friction. It is nothing but the difference between the two weights, that is nothing but W1 and W2, multiplied by the gravitational pull, that is nothing but 9.8 into the speed. So this is nothing but the net pull on the motor or the net load which is being applied on the motor. So from this we can calculate our torque as the net pull multiplied by the radius. The net pull is again substituted here, multiplied by the R is nothing but our shaft torque or the torque which is exerted on the shaft of the motor. Hence the output now can be obtained as net pull multiplied by R. We also know that the mechanical output is nothing but TA into omega. We got the torque here, and omega is nothing but 2 pi n by 60. So this is the mechanical output. So the input, the electrical input, V is the applied voltage in volts, I is the total line current which is applied by the load supply source, and or the line current which is drawn by the armature in the motor. So from this we can calculate the input power of the motor. So we got the output mechanical power and the input electrical power. From this we can calculate the efficiency of the motor for the brake test as the ratio of again output power by input power. So output power is the mechanical power, which is a torque multiplied by omega or the angular speed. input power is nothing but the supply voltage multiplied by the line current, which is actually being drawn by the armature in the motor. We are going to discuss the advantages for this particular kind of test. So advantages of brake test are nothing but actual efficiency of the motor under working conditions can be found. So working conditions means we basically apply loads to our machines, that is a generator or motor. So actual efficiency of the machine, which is conducted in the lab in the form of this pulley arrangement, can be determined by using the brake test. This is a motor and these are the scales. So in the practical applications, we actually connect our loads to our motor. So this can be studied in the laboratory by using the brake test. The method is simple and easy to perform. We know that we apply the loads and then we record the currents and then we calculate the efficiency according to the observed values on each application of the particular load. Can be performed for any kind of motor. There is no limitations for either series, shunt or compound machines. So we can conduct this particular brake test on series machines, compound machines and shunt machines. Disadvantages of this particular type of test is nothing but we know that we have a brake and pulley arrangement. So some amount of energy is being lost in the friction and heat is generated. Hence then there is a dissipation of energy. So energy is being lost in the form of heat near the pulley arrangement. And some type of cooling arrangement is also necessary to cool down the motor, as we are taking the motor from no load condition to the rated condition or full load condition. So we require a cooling arrangement to cool down the motor. And it is only convenient for small machines due to the limitations regarding the heat dissipations. So for large machines, the heat dissipation will be quite large. So that's why this kind of test is limited to small machines. The power developed gets wasted, hence this method is little expensive compared to the other testing methods. Efficiency is also on lower side. As we are loading the motor, when we load the motor, the armature will draw more current from the supply lines. Hence, when the armature current is increased, we can see that our Ia square Ra losses or the copper losses or the variable losses on the machine also increases, which thus decreases the efficiency of the machine. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of the brake test. And the further test like Hopkinson's test, field test, regenerative test and retardation test will be discussed in the next lecture. Thank you.